Ladies and gents, PepperBelly here, and I'm bringing you guys some more Interstellar Marines because Update 18 was released on the 22nd of April, and I would have gotten this video out earlier if it wasn't for the fact that I have been sick as a dog the entire week, and still am somewhat. I'm kind of getting over it, but at least now I can talk somewhat decently, so I am finally getting this video out to talk about what has changed in this particular update, Update 18. So, a lot of us, mainly Spearhead players, and some of the free players that, or not the free players, but some of the players that have actually bought the Interstellar Marines copies, like whichever version they ended up buying. So basically Spearheads and non-Spearheads had access to what they were calling the sneak peek of Update 18, and this was quite a while back. I believe sometime towards the end of February, everyone had access. The difference is Spearheads were able to play online, and non-Spearhead members weren't. And this sneak peek allowed us to try out the new stamina system, see the new weapon models, which they're pretty much exactly the same, just different skins, so they're like different colored. They were blacker at the time, and there was kind of an argument on the forums whether or not they were purple or black, but to me they were black for sure. But now they're kind of like a blue tint. But anyway, that sneak peek allowed us to try a lot of things out, but there were some bugs, and that's why it only contained some of the elements of what Update 18 was going to have, and ultimately it didn't run exceptionally well. So it's like, it did run, like, playing multiplayer and things ran perfectly, but there was the issue with certain co-op missions where they didn't function properly, and that's what they wanted to fix and address 100% before finally releasing this update, which was mainly the keycard issue that existed when playing the NeuroGen incident, because that keycard was a very significant objective that you had to achieve, and without it spawning, it pretty much halted the entire progress and you had to start all over from the beginning, and it was really, really annoying. So, that's been addressed now. And the original plan that Zero Point Software had, because they have this new edition coming to Interstellar Marines in the future called Hell Week. And if you can go check it out on their YouTube channel. They actually have like a video demonstrating exactly what Hell Week is going to be. I'm not going to bother explaining it because it's extensive. And with it, they were going to have that within Update 19, along with Unity 5, the conversion from Unity 4 to Unity 5. But considering Update 18 was taking quite some time, they were planning on saying, screw it, we're going to combine Update 18 and 19 into one. Ultimately, as you can see right now, they ended up not doing that. So they figured that the conversion, because what they wanted to do was convert from Unity 4 to Unity 5, get all the updates in, and then release that as Update 19. But unfortunately, because it's been proving to be a lot more difficult and time-consuming to actually do that conversion, because they would fix one thing or they would add one, and then 3 more problems would pop up, and you know that kind of ratio where you fix one problem, and then 3 more show up. So, because of that, they decided they're going to release Update 18, just to kind of get things on schedule and, you know, get the game updated and, you know, show that development is actually progressing, right? You don't want to halt development because of minor issues or significant issues that are pretty much plaguing your ability to continue certain updates that would have already been released had those issues not been present because of whatever happened. Because Unity 5 basically was released during the period, and that's when they were kind of just like, oh, okay, we'll just update to that and then release an update. If Unity 5 would not have been released, then Update 18 would have came out as it was. So they delayed it because of that, but unfortunately it was taking too long, so now it's released. Anyway, we're going to go through the changelog because there's a lot of things I played during that period that have changed, or some additions that weren't in the original sneak peek of Update 18. So, one of the things that was already there, which I'll just go through the changelog in order. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'm going to cover basically the main portions of what was added. So they added Team Domination, and they added Team Deathmatch and Deathmatch game mode. So it's like they kind of gave what people sort of wanted, because the stock game type that was available was Team Deadlock. And now they added Team Deathmatch, Team Domination, and Deathmatch itself, which is free for all. But as you can clearly see from this gameplay you're watching right now, the spawns are utterly fucked. There's no lighter way of putting it. They are completely bad. And I was going to leave this argument for a later point in the video, but the gameplay right there was illustrating it perfectly. The spawns for those particular game types are completely foobarred at the moment. They're just terrible because it's so easy to end up spawn camping, which you just saw right there, or you end up spawning behind someone who literally just spawned, and it's like, it's insane. I have gameplay clips of that as well. It's terrible. It's a complete mess, but they're planning on releasing a hotfix, so I've heard, within a week or two roughly to address this issue. Hopefully they can get that sorted. So they added those game types, And they made it so that admins that are the elected admins that have been added to the game can now change multiplayer modes from within the game. So they don't have to like basically back out, pick a different server, and then be able to change maps and orient things that way. They had to actually, they can do it from within the game itself now. So if you're playing on Team Domination, you want to change it to like Team Deathmatch, the admins can do it. They have the power now. They also made sure the server browsers now have filters, which is great. Because before it was kind of like they were all just thrown in and you didn't really know what was, well, I mean, they were all the same game types, right? Because it was Team Deadlock. That's all that there was available. But now that it's different game types, it's kind of hard because they don't have the actual game type named in the server name itself. So now you have to actually filter it. And by doing so, you can see which ones are, you know, which game types are which and which servers are filled and whatnot. So it's a lot easier to navigate and figure things out. Another addition is being able to sprint strafe. So what happened in Update 17, if you were sprinting in one direction, think of it like Battlefield Bad Company or older games like that, where basically you can only sprint straight. If you would strafe, nothing would happen. Or if you would strafe, it would cancel your sprint. That's what Update 17 did. You'd be sprinting in one direction. If you strafed, it would cancel your sprint. Now, there's a slight deviation off of your initial course. So if you're sprinting straight and you strafe, it won't be like a significant like strafe. It'll just kind of slowly deviate to the left or right depending on which way you're strafing, and it won't cancel out your sprint, which is nice. They also added crouch sliding. So don't think of it like fucking Crisis 3 or something where you're literally going to be sliding ridiculous lengths. It's literally just sliding to a stop. And it's not quite like Graw, so I don't think you're going to be playing like Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter on PC where you're going to be sprinting and do a really badass slide into the crouching position. It doesn't look like that at all. It kind of just has the animation where the weapon drops lower. Hopefully something like that can be addressed in the future where it'll actually look a little bit more appealing. I mean, Graw did a pretty damn good job of what it looked like to slide into the crouch, and I mean, it felt badass to do so. And maybe add the ability to actually pull a trigger while sliding, even though it's not really advisable, but considering you can actually do it. But anyway, the point is, don't think you're going to be sliding into cover and sliding all over the place. That's not really what it does. It's kind of just an animation that when you drop to the crouch, it's like what you would actually do in real life, kind of like stopping and crouching, which is a little bit of a slide, like maybe a foot. So they also added a sprint jump animation, or weapon animations for the actual, so when you're sprinting and you jump and you have a weapon in your hands, congratulations, now there's an animation for it. Quite simple, really. And the one thing I don't particularly like, which I'm about to address right now, is sounds are muffled when AI SARA talks. So the AI, if you guys are familiar with Interstellar Marines, it's an AI that talks to you, giving you like the information on what's happening, objectives, etc. Before, in Update 17, it was perfectly fine, and during the sneak peek I noticed it as well, because it was actually included in the sneak peek as well, and now it's in Update 18 as well, or in the actual release of Update 18. I wasn't particularly fond of it, because it's like, you'll be getting shot at, AI SARA starts talking, sounds are muffled, and it feels like you don't know what the hell's going on, you can't hear your surroundings, that the guy's got you in his crosshairs, and there's no way you can react, because you can't hear where the sound's coming from. It's like, it's kind of like being shot and having your HUD go down, except worse. So, it's one thing I'm not particularly fond of, because it's really disorienting when you can hear things clearly, and then suddenly she talks and everything just goes completely deafeningly quiet, and you're completely clueless of your surroundings and what's happening until she shuts up. So, I mean, the way it was before I think is better, because it leaves a lot of those moments where you feel weakened, like you feel kind of stressed out of what's going to happen to you in that moment of basically deafness. You're just like, oh shit, what's happening? Like, even though it could be really, really brief, it's just like in that brief moment, someone could take advantage of it and kill you if you're already in their sights, versus giving you a chance to kind of hear where the shots came from and actually react to it. They also added a fix for the loss of training points, which is essentially the experience you obtain throughout playing the game. And some people were experiencing losing their ranks and like dropping down a few ranks or just starting over completely, or just losing the training points that they actually gained in one particular match. Now they added a check that's going to make sure that you do not lose those points after a match. So it's going to ensure that what you go in with is going to be your base minimum. What you acquired is going to ensure that you do not drop below that at all, and it should basically remedy that issue. A small little visual effect they added as well is if your HUD is down and you're exhausted, so you deplete your energy and you're breathing hard, you'll actually see the breath on your visor, kind of like your suit. Obviously, it's not functioning properly, therefore it's not ventilating the carbon dioxide that you exhale properly or something, I don't know. So therefore it's appearing on your visor and fogging it up a bit, making it a little bit harder to see. And they also added the ability to have flashlights and lasers toggleable independent of each weapon. So the way it was before, if I turn on my laser on my assault rifle and I would switch to my SMG would also have its laser on. And vice versa with the flashlight and laser for both weapons. And it doesn't matter how you know, which order you did it in. Now, you can toggle them independent. And the thing I also noticed as well is that memory is saved. So if what I mean by that, if I actually equip a suppressor to my assault rifle or my SMG, if I die and I respawn, it's still equipped, which is great, because before it was really annoying. Every single time you die, especially if you were revived, if you got shot and a player managed to revive you, you'd have to re-equip your suppressor, and for both weapons, and it was really, really annoying. So they fixed that, but that doesn't come without bugs, because it also happens to remember how many rounds you have in your magazine, and this carries over from rounds. So if you actually went through a round, say you were the person to kill the last individual on that team, you pumped out your entire magazine, for example, or maybe you fired 10 from your assault rifle. Next round would start off, you would have 10 rounds left in your magazine, or however many was left at the end of that particular round, so you have to reload. Not a major gripe versus like losing your suppressor every time you respawn, but it still is kind of an issue because it shouldn't be happening. It should reset your magazine count every single time you start a fresh match, especially. Not so much if you're being revived or respawning, that's not too much of a big deal, but especially when you're going into a new match, it should definitely not carry over. Now, it's server specific, so I mean, if you leave the server and join another one, it's not going to remember how many rounds you had in your magazine. That's different. It completely resets. This is only if you're in the same match and you're going between different rounds. They also added new Spearhead bonus content, including 78 new images and audio logs and OTTO speaks from the NeuroGen incident and additional items. I'm guessing that's like OTTO is like recorded topics or something or other. I don't know exactly what that specifically means. I didn't even realize this until just now. So that's actually kind of cool. If you're a Spearhead for Interstellar Marines, congratulations. Your Spearhead folder now has more content in it to view for your viewing pleasure. I'm probably going to check that out after this video because I had no clue until just this moment. That's kind of neat. So let's talk about some of the more notable improvements. And that would definitely be the fact that walking and walking faster, so the running speed, I suppose, mainly the running speed, actually affects your stamina. So before, the stamina system was very bare bones, and to be honest, it was quite frankly terrible. It had sprinting, and it had no build-up whatsoever of knowing when you're going to be exhausted, and when you were exhausted, suddenly you were just breathing heavily, and your weapon was swaying like crazy, and it was really annoying, and it would take ages to recover. And sometimes it would just glitch out, and you'd be permanently fatigued, which was really annoying. During the sneak peek, the stamina system was a vast improvement, and even now, it's even more so. So it's kind of nice to see, because now you can't just run everywhere all the time. And I don't mean sprinting, I mean like running. Running itself will actually fatigue you over enough time, and sprinting will as well, obviously, because sprinting is, it's like, they go at different rates as they would in real life. There's a head bob to it as well. When you're sprinting, head bob is a lot more notable. During the sneak peek, it was excessive. It was almost like there was explosions and tremors going on around me as I was sprinting, and I didn't really quite like it or enjoy it. However, they seem to have toned it back a bit, so now it's like, there's a head bob, it's kind of significant, but it's not enough that it's like, it seems like you're running over rocks on the side of a mountain, which is the way I would compare it before. Now it seems more like it's more realistic. Your head jars like you would if you were actually sprinting. I still think it's a little bit somewhat excessive, because we all know when you're running in real life, your eyes match the horizon and compensate for the momentum of your body. Kind of like a gyro stabilizer, you know, when you're running, or think of like an M1 tank, how it's like got a gyro stabilized turret, so it's like as it's driving over rough terrain, the turret stays perfectly aligned. If you know what a gyro stabilizer is, then you don't really need explanation on what I'm talking about. So it is a little excessive, I still think, considering if you're running on flat terrain. I don't think your head would be jarring that much. The best way I can describe it is like if you've ever worn a helmet that's been loose on your head and you're running, and the way it bounces on your head roughly, it's almost like that bouncing is what your vision is doing in the game. So it's like, that's one way I can describe it. I don't know, it's kind of how I view it. Anyway, continuing on. Sprint acceleration has actually been increased. So it's like, before it was, you'd start sprinting, it was decent, but now it's like, it accelerates faster. So you pick up speed a lot more quicker. And I think you move a little bit faster than you were in the past as well, which is not terribly bad. That's, when you're sprinting, it's like, you want to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, crossing open terrain, etc. So it's nice that they did that. they added generally more head bobbing. Some people were not particularly happy about this. Some people were having motion sickness. I honestly didn't even notice it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see significant more head bobbing at all. I don't, whatever. To me, it's like, it's negligible. I don't really see the difference that much. And then, of course, they made more tweaks to the accuracy of the weapons. And what I mean by that is the fact that now there's more weapon sway. So this all ties into the stamina system. More so than before. And moving definitely gives more penalties towards it. I still don't think the penalties are quite enough for the speed that you're moving at times. For walking, it seems about right. But when you're actually moving at a more tactical pace, like the running pace that's shown in the game, I think the sway would be a little bit more turbulent than it actually is by default. So it's increased, but at the same time, it's like it's not quite where I think it should be. They also increased the penalty for actually aiming down your sight and strafing. Which at first I was like, I don't really agree with this, because when I'm aiming down my sights, I'm not like deviating or lagging behind when I move left and right. So it's like, basically the muzzle drags behind if you start strafing. So if I'm aiming perfectly straight and I move to the right, the muzzle will slowly tilt to the, or not slowly, it'll abruptly like move left as if it's lagging behind, like the weight, like there's a tether to it. And when I move, it's like I'm accelerating so fast that the barrel can't keep up with my movement. Which is false, because in real life, you're not, I mean, if you're running really fast, maybe, but then you wouldn't be aiming down your sights because you wouldn't be a stable firing platform to begin with. So I kind of see the point of it right now, because it kind of diminishes strafe shooting, because it's very inconsistent. If you're strafing back and forth, then you'll actually see your weapon whipping back and forth like a tail. Think of it like when you have a hose and you're spraying water and you fling it back and forth and you can kind of see it do this ropey kind of thing. It's like that, where basically it just kind of whips back and forth constantly and makes it very hard to strafe back and forth and shoot, because your accuracy is going to be completely all over the place. Ultimately, what I would like to see in the future to basically fix strafe shooting is adding leaning and suppressing the ability to strafe so rapidly. What they already have in place for sprinting, which in my mind is perfect, is a deceleration and acceleration penalty. So it's like, if you're sprinting in one direction and you 180, it's not going to be like Call of Duty where you can 180 and you're still moving at the same speed consistent throughout, which is retarded, right? If you're sprinting in this game and you 180, you'll slow down, like you would in real life. Your character has to turn around, he'll decelerate, and then he'll start accelerating again in the opposite direction. Do the same thing for sprinting, you know, like when you're sprinting, have that deceleration into the stop, and then gradually move left. That deceleration to the left, gradually move right. This will prevent the ability to actually rapidly spam strafing back and forth, and actually make it more realistic in how a human being actually strafes, because it's like, it's really difficult to strafe rapidly. Trust me, try it. Stand up and like literally try it. It's hard. You'll notice that you're like doing this weird pitter-patter like dance thing, trying to make it work, and your torso's not moving that much when you compare it to relation to how games actually appear. So adding leaning and, you know, minimizing the effect of strafing by, you know, adding those penalties, to me would ultimately make this game far better. And of course, fall damage, but that's a whole other thing to talk about at some point in the future. This game still has a long way to go to become like a true hardcore tactical shooter, but it's getting there. And every new edition is definitely showing that it's trying to achieve that goal, one step at a time. So overall, the update is a great improvement, although it comes with numerous bugs that I haven't seen before. And that's because they try to add these new features or these new elements that improve the game, but they also came with side effects of having strange bugs. So ultimately, it's fantastic. I'm happy with it, but I can't wait to see this game improve further, and I can't wait to see the actual conversion to Unity 5 and then seeing Unity 5 actually get taken advantage of down the line. So those are the main topics I wanted to actually cover from the changelog. Everything else, I will pretty much have the entire changelog in the description of this video if you so desire to go and examine and look through it yourself. And that pretty much wraps up the video. So thank you guys for coming out today. My name is PepperBelly, and I'll see you guys on the next one.